Good day and welcome to yet another exciting episode of Trendz Travel. I'm your host for today, Uslondiwe Wagamtalane. We begin this journey with Kenya tourism and a cruise life in Cuba.
Coming up next on Trendz Travel this week, we explore Kenya's wildlife. We see nature showing off in California. We have some fun with some games. And finally, art in celebration of women. All this and so much more on Trendz Travel this week.
It's the crack of dawn. The sun slowly rises and spills its gentle warm rays on the Amboseli landscape. These majestic beasts make their way to this watering hole. The animals with the longest memory know that no matter what season it is, they can count on finding water here at the LRI Conservancy.
In this ecosystem, we have now over 1,600 elephants that cross into the Tanzania forest, Mount Kilimanjaro forest, then Amboseli, LRI area.
The Setao LRI Conservancy is a unique partnership between the African Wildlife Foundation, the Internet or LRI Maasai community, and Southern Cross Safaris, a private operator.
I think it's long been recognized that government alone cannot effectively steward natural resources. If you look at the theory and the practice of conservation, over time people have begun to talk about the need for involving the local people who live and depend on the natural resources in the conservation of those resources. I think that's a much more sustainable angle of conservation.
Once these challenges were identified, all parties worked to find a solution that protected both man and wildlife.
We approached the LRI community, and began to talk about setting aside that important corridor area for conservation. But of course we had to give them something to hook on, and that became the conservation enterprise you see out there. So we first helped them to develop a land use plan for their area.
8 Internet families put their land together. They set up a conservancy using the land use planning tools provided by AWF. LRI sits on an important corridor area between the Amboseli and Kilimanjaro National Parks. Wildlife corridors allow migratory species like the wildebeest, zebra, and others to roam safely. Without intervention, these free spaces are threatened by increasing development and agriculture. After setting aside the 5,000-acre conservancy, AWF supported them by developing tourism around the conservancy. The Setao LRI Luxury Lodge was then set up. A stunning view of Mount Kilimanjaro, plenty of wildlife roaming freely through the corridor characterizes the lodge, making this quiet tourist haven a paradise for wildlife lovers.
The environment, the majestic mountain who suddenly comes up, it's always beautiful, and certainly in the early morning hours when it is just there in its grandeur, and the environment and the lodge. It has character. It is a style. It is beautifully made. It is just stunning. It is fantastic. Typical Amboseli look, the elephants in a row, Kilimanjaro behind. That's holiday,
The lodge trains and employs locals from a community that once upon a time valued their livestock more than wildlife. Now, the priority is to protect and enhance their livelihoods.
Penda matembo kwa sababu mostly hawa wageni wakikuja hapa ni tembo wanataka kuona.
I personally love elephants. I love them because when most tourists come here, they come to see the elephants. And truthfully, even in the conventions we have attended, we see that the elephant has the most value. and we are more protective over them than the other animals.
Tutawalinda au pia ndio asijasema tuwalindi wale tunawalinda lakini baada ya hawa.
The lodge has also given way to economic spin-off activities. Between 2008 and 2014, the lodge earned the community $521,000 from tourism. The revenue is distributed amongst the shareholders and also funds the community projects such as education, water, livestock, and husbandry services. The lodge also employs about 25 members of the local community, thereby benefiting their families. And overall, the lodge benefits about 1,000 community members.
I am one of the beneficiaries of this program. I make the beads you see at the curio shop, the lodge, and even the cattle you have seen in the borehole. We bought those from money we got from the lodge because I am one of the shareholders.
The Conservancy agenda fits perfectly into the 15th Sustainable Development Goal, which is to protect, restore, and promote sustainable use of terrestrial ecosystems, sustainably manage forests, combat desertification, and halt and reverse land degradation as well as biodiversity loss.
So we exist to advocate for prosperous Africa in which wildlife has a place, in which wildlife thrives, in which wildlife is considered as an important land use and is not compromised at the altar of development. And so that's sort of a vision that in Africa, we would advocate for an Africa where you would have side-by-side development and conservation. Why? Because we value our heritage and we value our wildlife enough to conserve it in the midst of prosperity. So that's our vision of LRDF.
As the sun sets down on the LRI Conservancy, this community has found a harmonious and profitable way to coexist with the wildlife around it, proving that conservation and development can live happily ever after.
Norwegian Cruise Line Holdings, based in Miami, inaugurated its operations to Cuba on Thursday after obtaining permission from the Cuban government in late 2016 for ships of its 3 brands to travel to the island. The Marina ship, with a capacity of 1,250 passengers, arrived on Thursday morning to the port of Havana. It will be the first of 3 trips that the brand Oceania of Norwegian will make to Cuba this month with overnight stays.
Miami is the port capital of the world. We visit destinations throughout the Caribbean, and Cuba has been off limits for 50, 60 years. And I think it's time that Cuba becomes an integral part of cruising out of Port Miami and out of other ports throughout Florida.
Del Rio, who left Cuba in 1961 when he was 7 years old, returned to the island for the first time in 2015 to re-establish business relationships. He also traveled on Thursday to the island to lead the first trip by Norwegian. American tourist Glenda Simmons said she was very happy to be here.
So many of the people that we work with at home and so many of our clients come from Cuba, and they're all very excited that we are coming over here to see Cuba now, because so many of them, their parents came from Cuba and have never been back, and they as a second generation have never been here. So this is such an exciting moment.
Next April, Norwegian will send 2 Regent 7 Seas Marina cruises to Cuba with 700 ultra-luxury passengers, and in May, it will begin the Norwegian Sky itineraries, a proposal they hope to keep for the rest of the year.
Wanted to see what it was, hadn't had a chance to see it, so.
We want to see the old cars too.
According to official Cuban figures, in 2016, more than 88,000 travelers arrived in Cuba by means of cruises. Cuba's Ministry of Tourism expects that the arrival of boats will double in 2017.
We hope you're still enjoying the show. We have so much more for you just after the break, so stay with us.
in 2013 there were similar disturbances at this very facility, and it would seem to me that this time around the same issues that led to those disturbances are still prevalent.
This time around, funny enough, the 26, 27, 28 gangs ganged together and attacked officials, which is for us something that is very abnormal, and it has never happened.
Almost 23 years into our democracy, we are still confronted with a system that is as violent as in the dark days of apartheid.
The Department of Correctional Services has transformed from a prison system to a correctional system.
I've been arguing since time immemorial, and it doesn't help. When you argue with facts and you speak truth to power, justice and authority, then you are seen as being arrogant and confrontational. I came here because I've been around the block many times, and Mr. Modise is a seasoned correctional officer. He knows exactly what is going in there. He knows exactly what needs to be done. And he knows for a fact that the Department of Correctional Services can't do it all by themselves.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Media Monitor. I'm your host, Alicia Jali. What has been happening on the digital front?
To win the CAF Championship was a huge thing, and perhaps we ought to have celebrated him even more.
Absolutely.
73% of our schools, regardless whether they're in the township or they're in urban areas, if you go to those schools, you are guaranteed a matric pass.
It is the one thing that we haven't done well as a country. We have thrown money at it. I mean, if you ask for figures, you will be told we're spending well in education.
90 billion.
But the performance of the system has not been good enough.
A presumed U.S. drone strike in the south of the country has killed 3 Al-Qaeda suspects.
Death toll in Yemen's 18-month-old civil war now stands at about 10,000.
People get killed or die and are actually buried before they're recorded, and we don't have a way of recording that, but we know the numbers are much higher.
Water restrictions are to be imposed on villages in and around the Nkomazi municipality.
Pumps can't pump the water because there's no water in a river, and if the water is coming back, then it's full of mud.
Those who can pray and those who can do any miracle to make sure that we've got enough rain, give it a try.
Welcome back. In this segment, we explore a blooming phenomenon in California. Then we experience a very fun ride in a very unique mode of transportation. Enjoy.
An unusually dense display of wildflowers brought visitors to Lake Elsinore, 70 miles from downtown Los Angeles, to enjoy the yellow, orange, and purple blossoms. Plentiful rains in December, January, and February have encouraged the development of a spectacular showing of annual plants in the flower fields north of town, along trails in western canyons, and even in the Badlands. A carpet of vivid blooms, mainly orange California poppies, covered the hillside along the busy Interstate 15 highway. Before the state's devastating 5-year drought, Southern California families often made an annual trek to see wildflowers at Anzo Borrego and other destinations, some as close as a freeway exit in the high desert. Now that storms have replenished dry desert land, the tradition has returned in force. People walked the trails, took photographs, rested among the flowers, and picked colorful bunches to take home. So many people are visiting Anza Borrego, the state's largest park, that officials on Tuesday warned of traffic jams and urged flower lovers to bring plenty of water to avoid dehydration in the hot, dry weather expected this week. A wet winter in Southern California has led to ideal conditions for a bumper wildflower bloom. On the steep hillsides of Walker Canyon in Lake Elsinore, people snapped pictures of wildflowers and gathered blooms as they strolled through the gently waving sea of color. According to the National Park Service, rainfall throughout the winter and spring is essential for a good wildflower year. Anza Borrego Desert State Park, 80 miles southeast of Lake Elsinore, is seeing an abundance of wildflowers according to the park's website. Drought-stricken California has had one of its wettest winters in memory. A group of foreign tourists from the United Kingdom enjoyed a ride of a heritage train that runs on a steam engine in India's northern Himachal Pradesh state. The 112-year-old heritage steam engine, KC520, considered to be an engineering marvel, runs on a Kalka-SHIMLA heritage line and was reintroduced by the provincial government in 2014 in a bid to boost tourism. As many as 30 tourists travelled through the steam train for about 20 kilometres.
It's a unique railway line, and if you manage to lucky enough to get on a steam train, it's just such a privilege. These steam trains, we don't see them very often in the UK. We've seen on television there are some very, very good documentary programmes about the Indian Hill Railways, about the Darjeeling Himalayan Railway and the Kalka-SHIMLA Railway, and many of us have seen these programmes and we just fell in love with the railway line and the engines, so we wanted to come and see what it's really like.
The first train arrived in Shimla on November 9, 1903, and engine KC520 was commissioned in 1906. The steam locomotives, which ferried Europeans to and from the west-east wild summer capital of British India, phased out in 1970 after the launch of diesel engine. Another tourist, Keith, said he was delighted by the experience.
It's a great honour and surprise in many ways for this engine to be bringing us today, because it's not very often able to steam, so we're very lucky indeed.
It has been a great tourist attraction after this one, and once the heritage steam engine has started for joyride, it is attracting high-end and foreign tourists here.
The Kalka-Shimla railway line was declared the UNESCO's World Heritage Line in 2008.
About 30 elephants trained to play polo raised money to save its own kind at the 2017 King's Cup Elephant Polo Tournament in Bangkok. Mahouts handled the elephants while the players tried to strike the ball with a mallet that is much longer than those used with ponies. The ball is the same size as a regular polo ball. The elephants and their mahouts participated in a blessing ceremony at the opening of the event.
Well, over the last many years, we have now collected more than $1.3 million to help with so many different projects for both domesticated and wild elephants in Thailand and now expanding into other Asian countries as well.
The elephant polo event was first introduced in the seaside town of Hua Hin in 2001, bringing in polo enthusiasts and professional players from around the world. The annual event is in its 15th year. Donations were from big businesses and celebrities who sometimes participate in the match. One of the participants, Adam Janikowski, whose company was one of the donors in the event, has ridden horses before, but said the experience on an elephant was very different.
To be honest, a lot of my experience lately has been rodeo, so this is even worse because I don't think I would want to do any rodeo events with any of the elephants.
The elephants were treated to a buffet of fruits and vegetables as part of their high-energy diet. The elephant is a symbol of Thailand, and in ancient times they were used to carry soldiers into battle. Animal rights groups have criticized the use of elephants in the tourism industry, arguing that the animals are often mistreated. There are about 3,700 elephants left in the wild in Thailand and up to 4,000 domesticated ones. According to Eliaid, a British organization working for the conservation of the Asian elephant, deforestation, rapid urbanization, and poaching of elephants for their ivory have all contributed to a dramatic decline in the wild elephant population.
We hope our ginormous four-legged friends enjoyed the polo and raised enough money for their cause. We have so much more for you after the break, so don't you go anywhere.
Health Talk unpacks healthy tips to help you to practice healthy living lifestyles.
Now, generally, type 1 is found mostly in children and young adults, and with type 2 diabetes is found mainly in the older generation and also with an issue of obesity.
Don't have second portions, and then I've brought this plate model to show that for both meals, your lunch, your dinner, half a plate should be vegetables.
Within sport, we see the spectrum itself. Most often we see minor head contact injuries, we call them.
Right.
But certainly in sports, the one that a lot of attention is paid to is concussion.
You see, you got something, boom,
atmosphere, right? It's uncontrolled. Whereas in soccer, when the guy hits the ball, it's controlled. His neck muscles are controlling it. And that's why they say, for instance, in rugby, the training should be to improve your neck strength.
For more on health, join your host Dr. Selo Motaung every Saturday from 9 to 10 a.m.
AIDS and poverty did not deter Mpumi's success.
Being an orphan or coming from poverty or having seen what HIV and AIDS does to a person that you love takes nothing away from you. It means that you are part of a selective few who have had to face a very, very marginalized struggle.
Abuse is a lonely journey that needs compassion.
I came across as a very confident, ambitious person, but behind that mask was somebody who had serious anxiety problems, a person who had knots in their stomach continuously, a person who could be in company and would feel very lonely.
Being away from his birth country did not stop his hunger to succeed.
Boxing was the way out. Turning professional would give me an income. That was the solution to the problems I've had for so many years.
For more inspiring stories, join Bupulong every Friday at 17:30.
Welcome back. Adulting can get pretty strenuous, and in this next segment, we go around the world to show you a few adults who know how to do it the right way. A little bit of competitive fun with a dash of crazy. Enjoy.
Every March, the cryogenically frozen corpse of a Norwegian man breathes fresh life into sleepy Netherlands in Colorado, where throngs of fun lovers fill the streets for Frozen Dead Guy Days, a festival in honor of the town's most famous resident. The annual 3-day festival is the brainchild of a local businesswoman who came up with the idea 16 years ago as a way to attract visitors to Netherlands, where the man's body has laid in repose in a shed since 1993. From a modest crowd of about 1,000 the first year, the festival now draws about 20,000 visitors, many of them dressed in Halloween costumes as they revel in such quirky events as a polar plunge, a frozen salmon toss, musical acts, and a costume ball. This year's festivities began with a parade of dozen hashes, followed by a coffin race through the streets of the Rocky Mountain town, where temperatures hover just about the freezing mark. The annual bash honors Bredo Mostul, who died and was cryogenically frozen in his native Norway in 1989, with the hope that low temperatures will allow him to be resuscitated sometime in the future. After a 4-year stint at the California facility, his grandson moved him in 1993 to his property outside Netherlands, 27 kilometers west of Boulder. 6 years ago, the Chamber sold the festival to Amanda McDonald, an event planner for the Chamber. Mostul's grandson no longer lives in Netherlands, and the family has no connection to the celebration, other than paying for his upkeep. Siberian fitness lovers brave the freezing temperatures of Lake Baikal, dressed only in swimming gear. As friends and supporters were wrapped up in winter coats to protect themselves from the minus 10 centigrade temperatures, race participants slipped off their clothes and slid away. Women wore bikinis and men took part in swimming shorts and trunks as they raced across 500 meters of frozen ice which covered the world's deepest lake.
Энергетика такая! Видите, какие все бодрые девчонки! Энергетика! Инна! Просто решили принять участие, чтобы испытать свои силы. Классно! Рекомендую всем!
The race was part of the Baikal Marathon Skating 2017, an annual event which brings together sports enthusiasts from around the region. After finishing the event, many of the participants were celebrated.
Teams from across the UK congregated in central England on Sunday to fight for the 4th annual British Quidditch Cup. The game, inspired by J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter series, sees teams of 7 trying to score as many points as possible into 3 hoops. In Quidditch, 2 teams of 7 players compete using 4 balls. 3 bludgers are used to momentarily knock opponents out of the contest, and a quaffle is put through one of 6 ring-shaped goals to score.
So it's a mixed gender, multinational sport. It's played in over 20 countries worldwide, and it's basically a mix of rugby, dodgeball, little bits of handball thrown in there, and it's just, I think the best way to describe it is organised chaos. It's just a bit hectic on pitch, but it's fantastic. The game's so fluid, and it's just very exciting to watch.
So this weekend it's the British Quidditch Cup. So this is our national tournament. It happens every year. This is the 4th one. So we've got 32 teams from across the country. They're all here. They've come for a 2-day tournament to compete to be crowned the national champions. Full contact sport, cross between rugby, netball and dodgeball. Brooms. 5 balls on pitch. It's mayhem. It takes a long time to get used to it.
Matches can last between 20 minutes to an hour and are finished when the golden snitch, a tennis ball stuffed in a stocking worn by an independent player, is caught.
Handheld charging up the pitch, not taken down, and in is 2010 to Velociraptors, restoring their lead, and they have blood.
There is no one good Quidditch player, so sort of some of the smallest girls, they can be incredible. And then likewise you've got some stereotypical rugby guys. They will also be really good, but there's no sort of one ideal Quidditch player. Like any body type, any person, any personality, just as long as you can throw and catch pretty much.
So I think it's that when we were little, I mean, I read the Harry Potter books, and it's come about at the age where we've all gone to university, and the university have set up clubs, and the people who graduated from that have got the experience of running a club, and then we set up things like community teams, like my own team, that we're playing here with today. So I think the sport's going to continue to grow. It's grown a lot in the last 5 years, and I think that we'll continue to see that grow as not necessarily more universities take it on, but clubs and the university get bigger, and they have first teams, second teams, much like rugby or hockey, and hopefully we'll just get a broader and broader thing, and this tournament can grow.
Velociraptors themselves will be hoping to win that. Oh, and there's a catch! There's a catch by Ash Cooper. And it looks like it could be good.
32 teams from Scotland, Wales and England entered this year's British Cup. In 2017's eventual winners were the Velociraptors, who defeated the Bristol Brizzle Bears 260 points to 60.
You might call that absolute insanity or just fun. We hope you enjoyed watching. After the break, we visit the artistic side of life.
What is environmental health?
In Section 24 of the Constitution, the environmental right has a second part, which is to encourage people to be active citizens and gives us the right to participate in politics and organize and raise awareness so that the environmental right can be guaranteed.
Using coal and wood and paraffin to cook with or to heat their space or to heat water. These are basic fundamentals, and I think if we can address that alone, we will make a huge impact, an environmental impact on the health of our population.
Food that comes into the country, the vigilance at the ports and harbours is being checked at the moment currently by environmental practitioners who are port officers at those ports. They need to be more stringent in terms of control of what comes into the country.
Join Health Talk every Saturday for all your health news.
art by its very nature is revolutionary, fun and explorative. In this last segment, we see some art dedicated to women, plus some very lively paintings.
An emerging Indian art startup is showcasing paintings created from cosmetics like nail polish, lipstick and mascara to celebrate the International Women's Day on the outskirts of New Delhi. Event organizer 1000 Words presented lipstick art exhibition featuring works created using cosmetics like lipstick, nail polish and eyeshadow to mark the International Women's Day in India's northern Gurugram city on Wednesday, March 8th. Talking about the exhibition, founder of 1000 Words, Sujesh Singh, said the exhibition was an attempt to showcase art out of cosmetics.
Lipstick has been a kind of thought process that has been there for the last couple of years, wherein I wanted to showcase art made from cosmetics, primarily to raise awareness about the significance of Women's Day, issues concerning women, and what better way than a product that is so closely identified and associated with women.
Excited with this new concept, artist and art curator Jeshi Siribali said through her work she wants to showcase womanhood.
Basically, the concept was that we had to use beauty products and nail polish and any foundation and whatever that we actually use, lipsticks and all, to create an artwork. And that also on feminism, something that represents womanhood and women in itself, as it's the International Day, Women's International Day.
Meanwhile, scores of women visiting the exhibition were amazed to see a different use of cosmetics for the first time.
Yeah, I really found it very fascinating because we as women are always very closely associated with cosmetics. This is for the first time seeing, cosmetics used for a different theme altogether. So we really feel very good when we use them, but now seeing them making the painting more beautiful is all the more amazing.
Another woman visitor, Simriti Singhal, said she found the concept unique and the paintings very descriptive.
Somewhere in the mind, maybe I think painter might have thought that how important women is and how important the things that they are using. That's why they have used this concept. So it's very nice.
International Women's Day started in the early 1900s to recognize paid work of women.
At first glance, this Cairo art installation appears to be a mural in red and purple hues of three people at a table. But their eyes are blinking, and that's when you realize they're actually real. The installation, called After Dinner, was Cairo-based artist Chanel Arif's latest venture into living, breathing art. Arif uses humans and their surroundings as her canvas, creating what at first appears to be two-dimensional paintings using fluid brush strokes and playing with light and shadows. The artist says there's not much difference to drawing on paper.
It's not that difficult because I apply the same techniques as I would a 2D painting, like a sketchbook, like it's the same thing, but on a bigger scale. And so it's like when you look at the person or the model, you're not looking at them as a three-dimensional person anymore, but I look at them like they're literally a canvas, and I'm just applying the same fine arts technique that I would on a canvas or paper.
The child of Saudi and Iranian immigrants to the United States, Arif first signed up to study makeup and body art in Los Angeles last year. After returning to Egypt, she relied on friends who offered their bodies and time to experiment with.
I love like grunge as well. It's horrible. It's crazy to be able to create that like optical illusion, you know, from 3D to 2D. And also, it affects people differently. You know what I mean? When you do body painting or when you create something with the human body, people are affected more by it. I don't know, there's something like intimate about it. So yeah.
Arif usually starts with a sketch, inspired by an emotion or mood that dictates the palette. In each work, Arif strives to create something that invites the viewer to forget the space they are physically in. Inspired by American artist Alexei Mead, their concept is new in Egypt's contemporary art scene, where artists can struggle to engage conservative audiences.
I have to say that Egypt is the most inspiring place for me. There's something about it. It's very chaotic and very high energy, you know, and there's a lot to see and experience and, you know, personalities. And it's not always pleasant, but I think that Egypt is definitely like the most inspiring place I've been in by far.
Not yet. Not yet.
It feels nice to be painted on. You're just like a canvas for someone's vision. لا حتى إن just تبقى قاعد ومركز for just keeping a certain mood is really meditative. So everything about it is cool.
Arif created the installation over a period of 6 days, giving a boost to Egypt's creative scene.
النهارده الانستليشن فكره جديده وعجبني ان هما they bring art to life، يعني العكس، بدل ما احنا بنصور الناس ونيجي نتفرج عليها حاجه مش عايشه، هي دلوقتي انت شايف اللوحه عايشه من ناس. فالفكره دي بتهيألي فكره جديده ممكن تعمل actually revolution في موضوع الارت وكده، وانا اول مره اشوف الموضوع ده هنا في مصر. يعني انا اول مره impressed، يعني بجد مبهوره جدا بالشغل وبالحاجات الجديده والماتيريال اللي مستعملاها، حاجه خياليه يعني، فعلا عجباني جدا بجد.
amazolwanda yayaluzela na hayi ipikwa kwintakenhle kwilizwe liphela yini namadoda hayi.
Jessica Mbangeni, a poet, singer, and actress in South Africa, performs a traditional art form rarely seen today. Mbangeni is a popular female imbongi, or praise poet in the country, having ventured into an art expression that's the preserve of men in her Xhosa community. Praise poems were used to relay social messages and information associated with the person being recognized, and to communicate events happening during a given time.
When I grew up, my grandmother used to tell me that there are no duties for men nor women. Everyone has got strength to do something and excel in it. So from that perspective, it has never been a challenge for me to be a praise poet in a male-dominated space.
Mbangeni started composing her poems in the 90s, mainly in isiXhosa. While trying to soothe her crying baby, she says praising him did the trick, and from then on she has never stopped. Poetry then introduced Mbangeni to the world of performing arts. She is also an actress, playing roles on various theatre and TV productions, and has also worked with big names in the country's music scene as a singer, including the Soweto Gospel Choir, which she has been on tour with at home and abroad. The former domestic worker turned poet has been recognized for her contribution towards promoting arts and culture in the country, winning various awards including the 2016 South African Traditional Achievement Award for Best Traditional Song of the Year.
It was not something that was in my mind that I would ever be the praise poet. And if I would have to choose, I would never choose to be a praise poet, because as a woman, you say so many things, and as a lady, you need to select your words. You cannot just say things anyhow, and with the emotion that it brings, ugly face, ugly actions, it's like madness. I would never choose it, but it chose me. God gave me this gift.
The artist is also instrumental in educating students about the country's culture. She is working with other poets in Southern Africa, holding workshops to get more youth in the region to celebrate their heritage, speak their mother tongue more, and appreciate their cultural dress. She says she hopes more youth would take up her style of poetry, which she feels is often very misunderstood.
Praise poets are taken as rant and ravers. They need to say beautiful things that people are expecting. A praise poet speaks, conveys the messages from God, the greatest affirmations. And a praise poet, actually, it's not this kind of poetry. It's not justified yet to be given a proper name for it, because we don't praise all the time. So I think imbongi, it's not supposed to be a praise poet. We should find a proper name for because this is a calling.
Mbangeni will be traveling to the United States to take part in the Los Angeles African Music Festival in June this year. We wish her well.
And that's all we have for you finally on Trendz Travel this week. Join us again next week, same time, same place, from our channel 404 and SABC 3 viewers. See you next time.